Who's buying U.S. corn exports? Well, take a look at Figure 1. We're set to export nearly 3.3 billion bushels of corn here in the 2025-26 marketing year. That's well above anything we've seen in recent history. Of course, 2.5 billion bushels was a high watermark that we were really excited about back in the early 2020s when China was buying a lot of that product. And so it's a kind of would have been unconceivable just a few years ago to think that we could be setting such high corn export numbers without China being a really big part of that equation. So, who is buying a lot of corn products? We unpack that in this article. But one of the charts I want to point out here, in with March Madness on our mind, the Sweet 16, we took a look at the 16 biggest trade partners that we have for corn. And there's two ways that we're looking at this. On the horizontal axis is the percent change in activity. So, who is whose book of business has grown the most in terms of size? We truncated that at 200% all the way on the right. But then on the vertical axis, we took a look at bushels worth, millions of bushels worth of additional activity. So there's a couple ways of looking at this. The two or three that stand out the most often is Mexico, Japan, and South Korea. They, of course, have been buying a big bushel worth of business. They've all been in this sort of 80 to 90 million bushels of additional activity through mid-February compared to a year ago through mid-February. So that's where they've increased a lot of bushels of activity. If we take a look at Mexico, it's a big percentage increase, but not nearly as big as that 50% we saw in Japan, more than 100% increase from South Korea. Take a look at the bottom right of this chart. We see a group of countries here that maybe haven't increased a whole lot of bushels, but they've increased on a percentage basis. And so the UK, Egypt, Algeria, Taiwan, even Vietnam, Canada, Venezuela, and Israel have all bought a big increase relative to where they were a year ago. So when we think about trade, not China, China isn't in this chart. China's barely even showing up in any of the data. What we got to look at is who's buying on a more on a bushels basis and who's buying more on a percent basis based on what they were doing just a year ago. Till next time, stay curious.